Have you ever found yourself trapped in an endless loop of your own thoughts, wondering why your mind keeps drifting back to the same place? Why, despite your best intentions, your focus repeatedly shifts to desires, fantasies, and impulses that you would rather keep under wraps? In those quiet moments of frustration, it is incredibly easy to fall into a trap of guilt and shame. You might tell yourself that you're weak, that you lack moral character, or that there's something fundamentally wrong with you. But the reality of human psychology and neuroscience is far more complex and far more liberating than you might think. The thoughts that occupy your mind are not a sign of moral failure or a broken spirit. They are the result of a highly sophisticated evolutionary biological machine that has been fine-tuned over hundreds of thousands of years. To reclaim control of your attention and your life, you do not need to fight a war against your own nature. Instead, you need to understand the intricate mechanisms running inside your brain. The very first thing we must establish is that having sexual thoughts is completely normal. These thoughts are a natural, healthy part of human psychology, and their presence alone does not mean you have an addiction or a psychological defect. The human brain evolved with a primary, overriding objective: survival and the continuation of the species. Because reproduction is essential for any species, the evolutionary process ensured that the brain would pay supreme attention to it. If our ancestors had been indifferent to sexual cues, the human race would have ceased to exist long ago. You are the descendant of survivors who possessed highly active, responsive biological wiring. Therefore, when these thoughts arise, they are simply your biology doing exactly what it was designed to do. This biological design means your brain is constantly scanning your environment, acting like a subconscious radar that never turns off. Long before you make a conscious decision to look at something or think about someone, your brain has already processed the scene. It automatically notices attractive faces, open body language, specific vocal tones, subtle scents, and social signals. This scanning process happens beneath your conscious awareness. Before you have even formulated a single word of conscious thought, your brain has flagged these cues as highly important. This is not a choice you are actively making in the moment. It is an automatic, pre-programmed response meant to capture your attention and direct it toward potential reproductive opportunities. Because of this dopamine-driven reward system, sexual stimuli hold an immense amount of power over our attention. This system was forged over millions of years of evolution, during times when resources were scarce and survival was a daily struggle. Your brain treats reproduction as a high-priority biological necessity, right alongside finding food and avoiding predators. In the modern world, this means that sexual content can easily hijack your attention, pulling you away from everyday tasks like working, studying, or building long-term projects. It's a biological mismatch, an ancient brain designed for a primitive world, trying to navigate a modern environment filled with highly stimulating inputs. When people realize how much their attention is being pulled in this direction, their immediate reaction is often to fight back with brute force. They try to suppress the thoughts, pushing them down and telling themselves they must never think about them again. Unfortunately, this approach triggers a well-documented psychological phenomenon known as the ironic process theory, or the forbidden thought effect. Decades ago, psychologists demonstrated this by telling research participants not to think about a white bear. The result was predictable. The participants could think of almost nothing else but a white bear. When you actively try to banish a thought, a part of your brain must constantly monitor your mind to make sure the forbidden thought isn't slipping back in. In doing so, it ironically keeps the thought alive and active in your subconscious. The harder you fight to push the thought away, the more frequently and intensely it returns. This cycle is further reinforced by a fundamental rule of neuroscience: whatever receives your attention grows stronger. Your brain is highly adaptable, a concept known as neuroplasticity. Every time you focus on a specific thought, dwell on a fantasy, or engage with stimulating content, you are strengthening the neural pathways associated with that behavior. Think of your mind as a forest. The more you walk down a specific path, the clearer, wider, and easier to travel that path becomes. Eventually, your brain becomes incredibly efficient at producing these thoughts. What started as a random occurrence becomes an automated highway of thinking. making it easier and faster for your mind to default to sexual thoughts whenever it is left to wander. Over time, these pathways harden into habits, and these habits reshape how your brain responds to daily life. Your brain is a pattern-seeking machine. If you repeatedly respond to feelings of boredom, loneliness, stress, or anxiety by turning to sexual thoughts or digital stimulation, your brain starts to link those emotional states directly to that behavior. You might think your urges appear randomly out of nowhere, but in reality, they're often deeply connected to hidden emotional triggers. When you feel overwhelmed by a difficult task, isolated after a long day, or simply bored on a quiet afternoon, your brain automatically suggests the easiest, fastest way to get a hit of comfort and distraction. The urge itself is not the root problem. It is merely a symptom of your brain trying to cope with an underlying emotional need. This vulnerability is heavily amplified when we are physically exhausted. Sleep deprivation has a profound effect on the prefrontal cortex, the area of the brain responsible for executive function, logical decision-making, and impulse control. When you are tired, the analytical, self-regulating part of your brain goes offline, while the deeper, emotional, and impulsive parts of your brain remain highly active. This is why your cravings feel much stronger and your resistance feels much weaker late at night or after an exhausting day. You are trying to fight a biological battle with a depleted battery, making it incredibly difficult to maintain discipline and focus. Compounding this struggle is the modern digital landscape. Social media platforms and online ecosystems are explicitly designed to capture and hold your attention for as long as possible. Their algorithms quickly learn what triggers your response,
your curiosity, and fires up your dopamine pathways. If you show even a fleeting interest in stimulating content, the system will continuously feed you more of it, raising the level of temptation you encounter daily. You are no longer just dealing with your natural biological impulses. You are up against sophisticated software designed to keep you scrolling by exploiting those very impulses. This constant exposure creates an overwhelming number of triggers, keeping your mind in a state of chronic, low-grade arousal. What makes humans unique in this struggle is our powerful capacity for imagination. Unlike animals, which generally require a physical, real-world trigger to experience desire, humans can generate intense urges entirely within their own minds. We can recall memories, construct elaborate fantasies, and project future scenarios without any external stimulus present. A single random thought or association can trigger a cascade of emotional and physiological responses. This ability to mentally simulate reality is one of our greatest strengths, but when it is left unguided, it can easily turn into a source of constant distraction and mental restlessness. This is especially true during periods of boredom. The human brain naturally dislikes understimulation. When you have no meaningful goals, no engaging projects, and nothing productive to occupy your mind, your brain begins to look for a quick escape. It craves a sense of progress, excitement, or reward. Because sexual thoughts are incredibly potent and easily accessible, they become the default choice for a bored mind looking for a quick chemical lift. Similarly, stress and pressure drive us toward these behaviors not for the sake of pleasure, but for the sake of relief. When life feels overwhelming, your brain looks for a temporary escape hatch, a way to turn off the noise and feel comforted, even if only for a few fleeting moments. Understanding this distinction is vital. You are often not seeking pleasure. You are seeking a brief respite from pain, anxiety, or pressure. This search for comfort is also deeply linked to loneliness. Humans are inherently social creatures, wired for deep connection, intimacy, and meaningful relationships. When those needs are unmet, the resulting feelings of isolation can easily manifest as heightened sexual desire. The brain, craving the warmth of human connection, uses sexual thoughts as a proxy for the intimacy it is missing. This longing is further intensified by the brain's love for novelty. We are highly sensitive to new experiences, which trigger a much stronger motivational response than things we are already familiar with. The endless variety of the digital world exploits this craving for novelty, offering a continuous stream of new faces and scenarios that keep our reward pathways firing at maximum capacity. Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward building a healthier relationship with your mind. But understanding the psychology is not enough. you must also cultivate the tools to navigate it. The good news is that self-control is not a fixed all-or-nothing trait that you either have or do not have. It is a skill that improves through practice. Every time you experience an urge and choose to sit with it without acting on it, you are strengthening your self-regulation. Think of it as a muscle that grows stronger with every small, daily decision to stay disciplined. You do not need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent in choosing your long-term goals over your short-term impulses. To support this mental training, physical activity is one of the most effective tools at your disposal. Regular exercise helps regulate your mood, drastically reduces stress levels, improves your sleep quality, and sharpens your focus. When you push your body physically, you provide a healthy, productive outlet for pent-up energy, making it much easier for your mind to remain calm and steady when temptations arise. Additionally, having a clear, compelling purpose in life is a powerful shield against constant distraction. When you are actively pursuing goals that matter to you, whether it is mastering a craft, building a career, helping others, or improving your mind, your attention is naturally directed toward those productive avenues. A mind that is deeply engaged in a meaningful pursuit simply has less room for idle, intrusive urges. As you walk this path, pay close attention to the way you talk to yourself, because your identity shapes your behavior. Research consistently shows that people are far more successful at changing their habits when they change how they view themselves. If you constantly think, "I am trying hard to resist this temptation," you are reinforcing the idea that you are a person who is fundamentally struggling and deprived. But if you shift your mindset and tell yourself, "I am a disciplined, focused person who values my time and respects my mind," you begin to act in alignment with that identity. Your decisions stop feeling like a painful sacrifice and start feeling like a natural expression of who you truly are. The ultimate lesson here is that your sexual thoughts are not your enemy. They are a deeply ingrained, completely natural part of being human. The goal of this journey is not to suppress your biology, eliminate your desires, or feel ashamed of your humanity. The goal is to learn how to manage your attention, cultivate healthier habits, construct a supportive environment, and make conscious choices. Your impulses will always be a part of your internal landscape, but they do not have to drive the car. By understanding the psychology of your mind, you can step into the driver's seat, ensuring that your values, your goals, and your highest aspirations, not your passing impulses, guide your actions and shape your destiny.